I brushed my hair for you people today.
Welcome to Rolling Conversations podcast with James and Sarah. In today's episode, we're going to get into people who are just starting jiu-jitsu because it's the third week of January 2024. And then we're going to compare that to people coming back to jiu-jitsu from the holiday break or maybe an injury. And we're going to kind of compare the two. And then I got a surprise Q&A for Sarah at the end. It's the third week of January 2024. And there's a lot of people starting jiu-jitsu, new to it.
And have probably already quit jiu-jitsu.
Yeah. And there's a lot of people coming back to jiu-jitsu. It's kind of a couple of things we're going to talk about today. So, people starting out jiu-jitsu as a New Year's resolution, something they've been wanting to get into, and they're in the third week. What do you think they're going through right now through their minds?
Pain.
Lots of pain.
So much pain.
A lot of frustration?
No, probably not frustration. I mean, if they're brand new, they don't really know what to expect.
Well, I know for some people, like when they're starting something new, specifically people who come from other sports or semi-athletic, they probably think like, oh, it's going to be, a little bit challenging, but I'm gonna be okay.
Yeah, but that shit should have gone out the window in the first or second week. So by the third week, I think they've gotten over the fact that they don't know shit.
Well, I would hope so, but I know like right now the third week is about the time where you're learning how to participate in class. You're learning kind of the class structure. You're
not really afraid to roll anymore.
Yeah, I mean,
to an extent.
Yeah, but you're learning some of the warm-ups, and more importantly, you're starting to understand the names of positions. So if we're doing drills or something like that, they should be at the point to where they are, okay, if we're going to start in guard or something like that, and then pain.
So much soreness.
The big thing.
Shit, I took the entire month of November off and a good portion of December because I needed my body to heal because I was beat up last year. And I was sore as shit coming back. So, I mean, I imagine if you've never done anything like jiu-jitsu before, you're going to be very sore. And the bruises are incredible because, like, you get bruises in places that you don't understand what happened.
Yeah.
And neither does the general public.
Yeah, no, especially if you're new to it going in and then all of a sudden you're walking around and I always love the
grip marks.
The grip marks. You can see where someone grabs you.
So ladies, if you train jiu-jitsu and your man does not, you got some splaining to do.
And the main thing, like people coming back to jiu-jitsu after a break, maybe sometimes the Thanksgiving break turns into, well, they'll train once or twice at the beginning of December. And it's like, well, Christmas is coming up, so I'm going to just go ahead and take, and then I'll come back after the holidays. We kind of know what to expect. We're just prolonging that pain of getting back into it. But specifically, if you're new to jiu-jitsu, your joints and your body is being manipulated in ways that you're not probably used to unless you wrestled in high school or something like that. But specifically like your joints bending, getting used to that pain and things like that. I think that's one of the biggest things for new people they need to understand is like
flexibility and mobility for sure.
Yeah, because everybody can go to a gym and get on a machine or grab a barbell and they understand like they have to move weight in a certain direction. But what they don't understand is, when you start rolling or you start working with people and your arms tied up behind your head, or somebody.
You get the DOMS from jiu-jitsu too.
The DOMS?
Delayed onset of muscle soreness.
Oh.
You get that shit from jiu-jitsu too. Yeah. Because it's like, you're lifting weights. It's just in the form of people.
Yeah, and you figure it's there's a lot of adrenaline in the beginning for new people. A lot of fight or flight, even though they're not actually in a fight.
Well, there's so many death matches that have to be had in the first 2 years of jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, the white belt death matches. But I think also it's like a lot of people are coming into it from either watching MMA, watching YouTube, Gordon Ryan, Craig Jones, people like that, or Joe Rogan or Jocko or whoever. They're like, oh, I want to try jiu-jitsu. So they come into this, because they're wanting to be the alpha males or whatever, or females or whatever. And they come into this and they are thinking it's fight or flight. So you get that like rush of adrenaline, and then you get that dump of exhaustion. Then I guess you get the DOMS whenever you get home. You're like, oh shit, I can't move.
Oh no, that DOMS is like, for me, DOMS is 2 days later. Unless I work stand up for 10 solid minutes with Jake, and then it's literally getting up the next morning. My hamstrings were like, done.
Yeah.
Done. But yeah, the DOMS is real. Ibuprofen is your friend.
Water.
Drink lots of water.
Electrolytes. Ice. And but yeah, so coming into it, you're in that fight or flight mode, and I think that's what's exhausting, and that's what can get a lot of new people hurt, is either the ego from not wanting to tap or not understanding the position they're in. And you always want to, you're not always going to get to train with experienced people who are going to be controlled to where they'll secure the position in the submission, then apply pressure. The reality is a lot of times you're going to be rolling with other new people, other white belts maybe that have been training less than a year or whatever, and submissions come on quick. And if you're not learning how to tap early, tap often, and your arm's in a position and you're like, oh wow, that's kind of uncomfortable, but it doesn't hurt, and then you fight it, and all of a sudden you get those little inside tendons and cartilage pop. Best thing I can say is make sure you tap early and tap often.
Because if you don't tap, it's your fault.
Yes, 100%. If you don't tap, it is your fault if you get hurt. Wanted to emphasize that.
Wendy will be so happy that you emphasize that.
Yeah. But the other thing for new people is I think they get hung up in trying to, which I think your first 3 months of jiu-jitsu, you should try and train as much as you can, but you also got to take into account your age, your physical abilities and limitations. But really starting out, what do you think, like 3 times a week minimum?
Like you said, it's whatever you can, like whatever fits into your schedule. If you can only go one day is better than no days.
Yeah.
But what I hate to see is anybody who like starts and they don't give it 3 months or like 90 days before they go, oh, this isn't for me. Because just like trying or starting or experiencing anything that is like polarizing from your life, normal life, like it is going to be a shock to your system. So it's not like, oh, I played baseball whenever I was younger, I'm going to go try slow pitch. You know what I'm saying? It's not like that. Jiu-jitsu is not like that. So if you're trying jiu-jitsu, don't just after 2 weeks go, this isn't for me, because you don't know anything. You don't know how to move your body. You don't know what anyone is saying to you. Shrimp away. What? So give it 3 months. If it's once a week for 3 months, okay. If it's 5 days a week for 3 months, okay, but give it 3 months. That's what I say.
And when in doubt,
shrimp out.
Shrimp out. No, that's
wearing that shirt for the haters.
No, I think that's great advice. And I also, when, from owning a gym for years and years, I would always tell people, give it 3 months before you make a decision if you're even going to like it. Because for the first 3 months, you don't even know what jiu-jitsu is. Your body is just, it's in complete, absolute shock. The soreness is going to be insane. And then you're just at the end of the 3-month mark, somebody who's never wrestled, no background or anything like that, when they're coming into this, and you really need 3 months to give yourself an honest assessment of, is this for me? And that's on average of like 3 months at like 2 to 4 times a week, something like that, consistent. And then in the beginning, giving yourself time to heal and recover, because when your joints and muscles aren't being contorted in those ways, like you need time to recover to get to understand, like, am I hurt or am I injured? Did I, I got armbarred, I didn't tap. Is it sore because I didn't tap soon enough? Or did I actually, hurt myself by not tapping?
Well, that's another thing too, is understanding the difference between soreness and injury.
Oh, we could have a whole podcast on people who are sore and something hurts and don't understand the difference between something that hurts and something that's injured. And then another thing for people starting jiu-jitsu or coming back to jiu-jitsu, knowing the difference between something hurting and needing to take, some ibuprofen, ice, and maybe a couple extra days off versus something that is injured. If you are injured, don't train.
Yeah.
Go see a medical professional.
Stop getting on the mat and having to tell every single person that you come into contact with that something hurts, something hurts, something hurts. We're going to have a moment. If we go to roll and we're getting right there and you're like, oh, hey, by the way, my left knee is subconsciously, I'm going for your fucking knee. I don't mean to.
It seems like that's
I
always...
don't mean to. I'm not doing it on purpose. But I think my brain starts fixating on don't touch that knee, don't touch that leg, don't. And then all my body wants to do is heel hook your left leg.
I know. It's like no matter what, you always end up in that spot.
And
it's like
you don't mean to. So I started now, if anything is sore, which I haven't had anything sore since I took a break, which is great. But I know. But, like, if anything is sore, I'm not saying shit to you. I'm not saying anything to anyone. And it's my problem if, I further, aggravate whatever it is. But if you have a legitimate injury, stay off the frickin' mat and go do something about it.
Yes, take care of yourself.
Stop trying to train through actual injuries.
Because it's only going to get worse. The thing of it is you're actually, you think, well, it's better if I come in and take it easy, at least I'm there. No. If you want to come in and not get out of the routine or habit of going to the gym, or, hey, I still want to be a part of it, because for a lot of us, it's not just a gym, it's a community, it's family and things like that.
Oh yeah, you want to see your friends every day.
Go, but watch class. Sit on the side of the mat. Like our gym, most gyms we've been to, if you're a part of the gym and once the initial warm-up is going and instructions going on, I don't know of any coach that's going to be upset if you're not in a gi or not in your, matching spats and rash guard, sitting on the side.
I feel attacked.
Yeah, sitting on the side of class listening, right? But if you're hurt and you're like, well, I still want to go through the technique, really all you're doing is impeding your partner's progress.
Right.
Because they're going to have to move gingerly, and some drills and some technique require resistance. A lot of really good drills require a partner engagement of a push-pull kind of thing, and if you're hurt and going easy, they're more worried about not hurting you versus the drill or the technique a lot of times. So you're not doing your training partners any favor.
Yeah.
Go there, watch, hang out, be a part of it, jump in the class photo, give the standard shaka, but don't mess up somebody else's, technique or drilling or rolling because you're too hard-headed to take time off when you're injured, or even if you're hurt. Just, hell, I'm more hard-pressed to find something that doesn't hurt than pointing out what hurts. Rick Lee And I, about 10 or 12 years ago, made a little funny video, like, and it was old guy jiu-jitsu, and this is before like all this crap really kind of got popular, but it was like we thought it was funny, we were joking about it, and then we actually made a video. I want to see if I can find it, but we were like, we're getting ready to start, and we're like, oh hey, watch, my ankle's hurting. He's like, oh yeah, cool. Hey, by the way, my neck's a little tight, so neck, and we ran down the list of injuries, and by the time we got done, the timer went off, and we were like, all right, good round. And we never actually rolled. We spent the whole time talking about injuries and what hurts. So that's not fun. And, it's satire, a joke or whatever, but don't be that person.
Yeah.
If you're wearing a knee brace, you don't need to say like, hey, my knee, obviously you're cautious of your knee for
right.
some reason, but at the end of the day, like we said at the beginning, if you don't tap and you get hurt, it is your fault. Like, tap early, tap often. Like, I can't help it enough. And the same thing, like, coming back to jiu-jitsu. Same thing. Except for what to expect. You should be tapping early and tapping often. And the thing.
Sometimes I feel like we come back from longer breaks though, like refreshed.
Oh yeah, without a doubt.
Just on a rampage.
Oh, whenever I'm like dinged up, everything's hurting, and I take a week or two off, I come back. The first couple days of that break, I feel like a monster. And I really do. And then it's like, then my body's like, oh shit, here, let's put all this pain back on you. And then it's like over. But how would you, this is something like not just coming back from a break, but this is something I've gone through. I can't even tell you how many times. You've done it a couple of times coming back from an injury.
Well, I came back from rhabdo, if you remember last year. Oh, and my finger. You're right. Yeah, but see, I don't know if you remember. I still like rolled, but my training partners, we would train without using arms. Do you remember? Paige and I would roll.
I was in California.
Oh, that's right. So, kick-ass training partner Paige, love her. She just had a baby, so cute. But we would 100%, we would roll for like just getting dominant positions without using our arms. We would do it all the time. Or because I could only use one arm, because I couldn't grab, I had a cast on my finger, this one. We would just use one arm, and we would try to roll to submission with one arm. Like, it was fun.
Yeah.
But like I kept it, like it was on me too. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But when that, I feel like wasn't as bad. That was a frustration on my part because, like, how do you train in a gi when you can't grab?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
But and to go back to what we were just saying, like, you also didn't jump in and just roll in rounds and say, like, I remember because I was in California, you had told me. I
taped my finger up and I would still not use my hand. Even whenever I was back, like, I had the cast off, I was participating in class, I was doing all of the things. Mom's FaceTiming me. But I still, like, I would have this finger taped up and braced up, and I would still not use this hand, and I sort of like eased into it. Honestly, I think I was more comfortable doing no gi for a while because I can freaking meat hook anybody, but I couldn't grab onto stuff.
Yeah, but you like we were saying before, you didn't jump into class, you didn't jump into open round rollings. You would wait and work with someone,
specific people
who understood and were willing to work.
And I didn't want to take away from anyone either. So, like, there aren't people out there that are like, hey, Sarah, you want to just roll with one arm? like they want to get their training in too, and I didn't want to take anything away. So like I would just sit, and if people said something to me, then I'd be like, one arm rolling?
Yeah.
And they would want to. It was kind of fun for people, I think, too, to one arm roll with me, but no, I didn't want to take away from
You weren't jumping into
anybody's.
open rounds going, oh, you know, my shoulder. But that's not, it's the same thing but kind of different. You know what I mean? You understood like, hey, I'm going to sit until Paige or somebody was willing to work with you.
Yeah,
you know
but
what I mean?
coming back from rhabdo, that affected me more than my hand did. Because I did not have, like my entire body did not have the like muscular endurance. I had no cardio to speak of. I was damaged from the inside out. Like I had gone so hard and so long and made very, very bad decisions with my health or with my nutrition and stuff to try to make weight for a tournament. And then couldn't even do the tournament because I had put myself in such a bad position. But then it took me how many weeks just to get back to where like I could even do warm-ups and techniques without feeling like I was falling apart. So I did a lot of just watching during that time.
Yeah. How would you, like, I know I can't even tell you how many injuries I've come back from. And I know for me personally, building confidence in the injured part of the body when you're coming off, when you've taken the appropriate time off and it's time, you know, you're released from the doctor or whatever, and you come back, building confidence is pretty scary. Like, I know me.
Especially because most of the time when it's like an extended amount of time off, we go on vacation for 2 weeks. We come back in the gym and we see all of these people and we're like, where the fuck did that guy come from? Who are these people? So then that's like another layer because you're like, do I trust these people? Like I'm coming back from an injury. It's on me, but I don't want to tell the entire gym like, hey, don't, you know, whatever. So you find the people that you trust to roll with that also trust you, you know?
Yeah.
But I think it adds another layer when you take an extended amount of time off because a lot of times there's people that come in while you're gone and you don't know them.
Yeah, I know. I've had some significant injuries, and the older I get, like my first knee surgery, 6 weeks I was back rolling and training. The second knee surgery, because I didn't take enough time off, I waited like the full 3 months before I eased back into it. Shoulder surgery, rushed right back into it.
Yeah.
And that was a long recovery. I
feel like that was your roughest one.
It was
mentally and everything.
Yeah,
that was a very
that
very
was
bad
that was
surgery.
the worst surgery. Bicep. Whenever my bicep popped and I had that replaced, that was the first injury that I truly did rehab, like that I followed a prescribed rehabilitation plan.
Yeah.
And that I listened to everything the trained medical professionals said. And that was like, when I came back, I was very, very nervous. And it took a little bit, not that long, to build a little confidence in rolling, because I knew that I had built the muscle back up. I knew that it was strong. So coming back into it, and it was such a freak thing the way it tore. But I'll say coming back from my neck surgery was scary.
I found this on the web.
Scary, not serious.
She's always trying to button the conversation.
But coming back from my neck surgery, I had neck surgery in November. I did not step on the mat until the end of March. And I was in another state at another gym. And that was scary because you don't know people. So whenever, luckily I found a really great group of guys, Aries Jiu-Jitsu out in Roseville, California, like those guys.
Hashtag old guys for the win there.
Yeah, I know. There's a bunch of, like, that gym is like, if you're over 40 and wanting to start Jiu-Jitsu and you're in the Sacramento area, Roseville area, great gym, great people, great instructions. And, you know, and I had done my rehab, I had done my strength training, I had gotten released, and while I was in my recovery, I was reading neck surgeries and jiu-jitsus, trying to find as much information, and I actually came across an article by Travis Luter, and he had documented, and this was before, not YouTube, but really when people were kind of doing blogs and vlogs and stuff like that, and he had actually detailed like his whole recovery, how he went back onto the mats and started training again. And I was reading it, and it was a lot of great information. And I actually reached out to him, and he was, you know, cool enough to take time, and we kind of conversed quite a few times for a while because I had 5 and 6 replaced, and I think he had 5, 6, and 7 replaced. And we talked about the recovery and building confidence and drilling. November was 2 years that I had my neck surgery, and I'm just now building the confidence to actually start back on my feet and starting from feet. Because, I mean, anybody that's rolled with me in the last 2 years, I would never stand up. And wrestling and stand-up has always been part of one of the strengths in my jiu-jitsu and grappling. And it's 2 years I haven't done it. And, like, it took 2 years for me to build confidence in my neck, not just my neck, but my training partners. Not that I didn't trust my training partners, but you never know.
Yeah.
You know, it was very scary. And even now, like, I'm starting to stand up, and I've gotten my timing back a little bit, starting to get some rhythm back a little bit. And I've had to adjust the way I'm on my feet. Like, I'm not reckless with shots. I'm not reckless with trying to get these big throws. And, you know, but it's taken a long time to get there to build confidence up.
Yeah.
What do you think? What do you think coming back what do you think the most important thing is when you've had an injury and you're coming back, like easing back onto the mat?
Patience with yourself, 100%, because there's a layer of rust. I don't care how long you've been doing jiu-jitsu.
Oh, yeah.
There's a layer of rust that happens. And again, this is not just for jiu-jitsu, it's for anything that you take off for a while or you need to reset, reboot, do whatever. And you got to knock that off. Like, having patience with yourself and with jiu-jitsu, if you are not staying mobile during your downtime, that is the part that's going to be difficult coming back, because your body hasn't moved in that way in a while. So, but patience for sure.
Yeah, that's a good point, because both my knee surgeries and shoulder surgery, I was, in my mind, I think now thinking back, I was, well, I'm hurt, I can't train, so I'm going to take advantage of the downtime, and I just sat on my ass.
Yeah.
You know, like that was, I think, like looking back, I went from being, of course I was a lot younger and like very active, training, you know, 6-7 days a week, to nothing for 3 months. Even with my shoulder, I think it was like 4 months, to going right back into it. And I didn't, I know specifically with my shoulder, I didn't ease back into it. Yeah. Like, I just went full bore.
And especially after surgeries, your range of motion isn't going to be the same.
Yeah.
It's just not. Like, with any joint, anything, and you have to I think, be real about the expectations. Like, you're not going to come back from 3 to 4 months off, like, forced downtime, and especially with surgery, and be that same person that you were. Like, you have to have, like, give yourself some grace.
Yeah, and I think with age comes wisdom, and with experience comes wisdom, because you remember my bicep surgery. Like, that, the recovery, like, that was, you know, the physical therapist, she was like, well, you know, you're pretty active, you know, working out, like, come once a week and then I'll just give you a program. And I remember telling him, like, no, I don't trust myself.
Because you had never really followed one.
No.
How many things did we get? We would get pamphlets like this thick of all these different moves that you could do. We always had some sort of, like, gym setups wherever it was that we were living, and you would never do them. Never.
It was, okay, it's been the prescribed amount of time off you can train, and I go right back to full bore training. But with the bicep, I stayed active. I did stay out of the gym, I will say. With my bicep, I didn't even go into the gym until it was like we had gone to the Keys for, well, I had tore my bicep, had surgery, did 6 weeks of recovery. We were in the Keys for a month, and then I came back, and then I think it was 2 weeks after I came back, so 4, 6, 8, that's 3 months. 3 months before I ever stepped back onto the mat. And it was very hard to stay away, because especially, like, once I started the rehab and I was doing the little rubber band curls and things like that, I was like, in my head, I was thinking, like, I could probably go and just drill. But then I was like, well, we have a trip coming up. We were fortunate enough to spend an entire month in the Keys, and, like, I was like, if I screw this up, I'm going to screw that up for everybody. So I stayed away, and I think that was probably one of the best things. So if you do get injured and you do take time off, take the time off, but don't sit on your ass and be lazy.
Yeah.
Like, so compare that to somebody who's never done jiu-jitsu and they get their elbow. This is the other thing new people to jiu-jitsu. You're gonna be sore. Everything's gonna hurt. Primarily, what I've heard over the years are the biggest complaints are necks and elbows in jiu-jitsu. And necks, there are exercises to strengthen your neck, but nobody ever does them. So if you've never had somebody constantly pulling on your neck, and in gi too, even if they're not grabbing your head, like collar in the horse collar in the head, like in no gi, but if they're grabbing the lapels and pulling the lapel, and you're like this the entire time, and you're not used to that, and you're like, man, fuck this, like, my neck's sore, like, this isn't for me.
Yeah.
Just keep in mind, like, you don't know how to break that grip. You don't know how to control your posture yet. That gets easier. You build the strength in your neck up. Those aren't really injuries. That's actually, poor technique and muscle development that's going to come.
Well, I was going to say more than poor technique, because, I mean, think about how often you're telling new people, get your head off the mat, get your back off the mat, do this, do that,
posture,
on the
posture,
side,
posture.
all this stuff. So they're engaging all of these muscles that they've never engaged before. So they have places in their abs and their obliques that they're like, holy shit. And then their neck muscles and stuff. Like, the way I compare it to was like the first probably 2 weeks of fire school for me, wearing a helmet.
Oh, yeah.
And I had never put anything on my head like that. And now I'm wearing this helmet, and I would come home every night and my neck would be sore as shit. And it's like that, where, like, you're constantly off the floor, head and shoulders off the floor, back, staying mobile. Oh my God, Siri.
Yeah, you're like hunched over.
Yeah, so it's like you're essentially like this on the mat, and people have never done that before. So that kind of soreness too, but I mean, that subsides. And then the first time you choke somebody, all that goes away. Nobody cares anymore. And then you love jiu-jitsu.
You want to talk about an addictive rush high? It's like the first time you ever taste alcohol. I've never smoked a cigarette a day in my life, but like that, or done any real hard drugs. But you always hear chasing the dragon, like that first feeling. Like, it's been a long time, but I do remember. I probably don't remember my first submission I got, but I remember the first time I submitted somebody in a competition.
Yeah.
And that rush, there's nothing like that ever. And it's, yeah, you want to talk about chasing a feeling, like, and we see it in the gym all the time when new people are rolling, and it's like you're seeing them battle. And it's not like they just grab a hold of something and they squeeze something so hard and somebody taps. They're like, you know. But when you see a new white belt do a move, and it's, you know, functionally accurate, you know, jiu-jitsu technically accurate, and then they get that submission off of something that they've been taught, and then you just see their eyes light up, and you know they want to just jump up and be like, ah, and scream, but they're like very controlled, and they're like, oh yeah.
And it's just a baby smirk.
Yeah, but that internal feeling, like, that's when you know people are hooked. You see that twinkle in the eye, and they're like, okay, yeah, this is it. This is what I'm doing the rest of my life, you know. And yeah, that feeling. And then the elbow. So we talked about the neck, the elbow.
How did we get there?
Well, we said the most two common injuries for new people are necks and elbows.
Yeah, no, I know. I just don't. How did we get to that submission thing? Did I go off on a tangent?
Me or you, one of the two. But so your elbow, 90%.
Are you making up statistics? Whatever feels good, 90% feels good.
If you Google it.
Feels appropriate.
If you Google it and phrase your Google question correctly, you can get any answer you want. So
90%.
I think, in my opinion, 90% of elbow injuries are preventable.
Oh, yeah.
And this is coming from somebody whose arm doesn't straighten all the way, because I didn't tap early and I didn't tap often whenever I first started. So, elbows, you can prevent a lot of it by tapping when you learn how to recognize the submission you're in, or you can't get your arm out of the position. So, example, if you're new and you're rolling with somebody who's been training less than 2 years, not quite a blue belt, but they're rolling enough that they can get like cross-side, or you're in their guard and they throw up an arm bar, and you end up falling over and you're on your back and they're in cross-side, and you know, in an arm bar situation, and you can't get your arm out, and it doesn't hurt quite enough for you to tap, and they don't know how to technically correct the submission to finish it.
And you don't know how to get out.
That's when you should tap, because that's a prime example of your elbow being forced into as straight as it will go, and you're putting tension and you're fighting, and that's when you get those little, what are they, those little things that bust inside the elbow that starts making it hurt, and you're like, oh, I get this shooting pain. And
the crystals?
Yeah, whatever it is.
I'm joking.
The crystals inside your elbow. And, you know, you can solve those crystals by finding a vortex. If you go to Sedona and go to a vortex.
Because everybody's talking about damn crystals and doing all this stuff now. It just makes me laugh.
But you can prevent a lot of injuries by, if you don't recognize the position you're in or the submission and you can't get out,
just tap
and reset. You know, most of the time we're rolling for 5 minutes. You don't want to spend 3 minutes of a 5-minute round in a position or submission that you can't get out of, and the other person can't figure out how to finish it. Tap and reset.
Yeah.
Like, there's no, get that ego out of the way, you know. And so, and then people coming back to jiu-jitsu, I know I tapped coming off of my neck surgery, there was times where I tapped out of fear. Like I
roll with you constantly, and I was fearful of things. Like I would, as soon as I felt like I even had a remotely close Ezekiel, because I love that move, I would let go. You know what I mean? Not that I'm finishing most things on you anyway, but I think I was fearful because you kind of, like, you get muscle memory on submissions that you throw up all the time. And, like, I would see an opening and go to do whatever. And then I'd be like, oh, it's you. And, you know, let go or whatever. But there were a few times, like, even watching you roll, because I love to just watch, like, you and Jake roll, or, like, two of you guys that are higher level. I love to watch you guys roll. And there were a lot of times that I would just see you tap just because you were like, I don't even want to deal with where this might go.
Yeah.
Like, oh, yeah, you're close. Yeah, I'm good enough. Bye.
Yeah. And, you know, yeah, I tapped quite a few times coming back from injury because I was nervous, because I knew the position I was in, and I knew what I had to do to get out of that position, and I didn't trust myself. It took a long time. And that's what I'm saying, like, building confidence coming back from an injury is huge. And you can't grin and bear it. You have to tap early, and then you kind of push those limits a little bit more, to where, you know, there's still positions now that, like, I don't even fool with them. I'll tap, you know, and I'm not going to say what they are for you guys that roll with me, and no, I'm sitting there taking notes. But there are certain submissions and positions that I'll tap very quick on, just because
it's not worth it at a certain point.
And
you've already spent money trying to
and
put yourself back together.
Oh, and this brings up another thing that just pisses me the fuck off.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So when you're rolling and you can't get out of something, right? Or let's say somebody's trying to choke you and you tap. And then you make a comment of, that was more of a crank than a choke. Fucker, you got tapped. Tapped, period. Like, that drives me batshit fucking crazy. Like, to justify the tap and take something away from somebody, that annoys the living shit out of me. Because I know me, whenever I've tapped, and I'm only talking about the window coming back from neck surgery. When I've tapped, it's because I was in something I couldn't get out of, regardless of what it is. Whether it was a position that I didn't feel comfortable doing what I needed to do to get out, or I panicked because of the injury and I tapped. I have never said, well, you know, I just didn't want to risk hurting my neck. No. And I've actually rolled with lower belts and have tapped, and they're like, oh, you coach, you just let me get that. No, I've never. And if you've ever rolled with me, you know I've had this conversation on the mat 100 times. Do I let people work? Yes. Do I let people work to a certain point? If they're smaller or lower skilled level, yes, 100%. But if I let somebody work, if you roll with me, you know I start on my butt. I pretend to play open guard. You pass guard, get to some kind of half guard or side, and then I let you get an advantage, and then I start working. Well, if I can't work as long as I've been training, and I let that person work to that point, and I can't get out of that, and they're able to control me and submit me, that doesn't take. Why would you be such a dick to take something away from somebody? If I'm a black belt rolling with a blue belt, and that blue belt, if I let that blue belt work to take my back, let him get there, and that blue belt chokes me, the choke is on you. The choke is on me. I couldn't defend the choke. I'm a black belt, and I should be able to defend a blue belt's back attacks.
Yeah.
In all reality, and I've never said like, well, I let you get back there. If somebody ever says that to, they're an asshole. Like, don't ever. Again, if you're a purple belt and a white belt, you let them or they work to the back and they submit you. Don't say some dumb shit like, oh, good job. Next time maybe. Or if you're the guy that coaches, just as you're about to get submitted by a lower belt. That's another thing that drives me crazy. I see it in the gym all the time. And it
takes the wind out of people's sails.
Well, it's an ego thing. You know what I mean? And then people don't.
Because I've 100% been in a position where someone was going for some type of guillotine, and I could tell that they had, they didn't know how to finish it. So then they just start twisting their bodies and doing all this. That shit hurts. I'll tap. Yeah. My neck pain, it's not worth it. I will tap. Good job. I couldn't get out of it, and there was no risk it for the biscuit moment coming from me.
Yeah, and it's like, if you're a higher belt and a lower belt gets you, that means in that position, belts don't mean shit. That person got to your back. If a white belt gets to a purple belt's back and finishes them, they finish them fair and square. Yeah. Regardless of, and that's why you do specifics. That's why you start in bad positions. That's why you start, in semi-closed submissions, because you have to get better at that. If you're a higher level belt and you've only rolled with people like white belts or whatever, and you submit, and then you roll with guys at your skill level, and then you can't defend positions or anything like that, that's on you. That's things you need to work on. But yeah, I hate that. I hate hearing somebody say well, I let you work. You really gonna let somebody submit you? I don't care who you are.
Yeah, that's what technique time is for. That's not what.
Yeah, that's not what open mat rolling time is for. Yeah. Do I let people work 100%? But I only let them work positionally. I never let anybody finish intention. Now, there are times when somebody's brand new and it's you're
letting them do a technique though. That's different. That's not what we're talking about.
Yeah, but when it's open class time and you're rolling, you're rolling. Yeah. Let somebody work, let them work. And then if you are purple, blue, brown, I've even seen black belts do it, when a lower belt gets on in a legit roll, and we've watched it many times, and the lower belt gets a step ahead. And sometimes it's hard to get white belts. There's a couple white belts we train with that I know that I can only let them get to a certain angle. Yeah. Because then it turns into a legitimate fight. You take, all things being equal, if that person gets on my back, that belt doesn't make a shit. Yeah. And but just don't take it away from somebody. That's my rant.
And rant.
Yeah. But so starting jiu-jitsu and coming back from jiu-jitsu, that's kind of.
I think we've beat that. We're good. We can move on.
Yeah. So Q&A time.
For me, you're Q&Aing me.
Yeah.
I'm
gonna hit you up with a couple questions.
Oh God.
So. This is this question leads into another question.
Okay.
One, to wear a shirt or rash guard under a gi or not?
So, I'm not the one to ask because I don't wear them. I think that is, I'm a sports bra under the gi kind of girl. I get too hot. But I'm also the same person that at no gi, I'm full long sleeves, full leggings. So, but that's because I don't like my limbs to slide on the mat. But I do not wear a rash guard under my gi because I I feel like I'm too constricted by it. And I don't care if someone else does. But I also don't care if guys do or don't do. Like, that doesn't bother me either. I've never paid attention to the fact of whether or not my lack of a rash guard. I've literally never thought about that. That if me not wearing a rash guard makes people uncomfortable.
So you kind of went to the uncomfortable part?
I know, but because I've never thought about it. I just don't. I mean, I also wear a sports bra up to my neck, that comes down halfway.
Yeah.
So it's like I'm wearing sort of a shirt underneath, but it's like a very small shirt. But
Yeah.
I think as long as your titties aren't hanging out, that's appropriate.
Yeah. I was reading an article.
Is this not where the cue was supposed to go?
No. It was actually like there was two avenues of it. One was that, the other was sweat control.
You have a gi.
Yeah, and the article that I was reading was a guy was kind of going on a rant saying that, and this was in the terms of men training with men, that you should be considerate of your training partners, and the rash guard helps control the sweat coming off of you and gi because gi's hot.
Bullshit. Do you want to know where the majority of sweat in gi comes from? From men that I roll with? Your fucking beards. I'm dead serious. Are you going to put a rash guard on your face?
I feel attacked.
I don't care. Our gis are sweaty regardless. So, yeah, no. We live in Florida anyway. So,
Yeah.
we're gonna sweat through our shit. We don't have AC in our gym because we're real. Mm-hmm. I'm joking. But no, you're gonna sweat through whatever you have on anyway. Like, we end up with a freaking hot box in the summer. It doesn't matter if it's gi or no gi.
Yeah.
So, but no, I mean, a lot of times the sweat that I get dripped, like when I'm rolling with guys, the sweat is coming off of their face. Like, no one's chest is dripping sweat on me.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's silliness.
I thought it was silly. It was kind of a rant from somebody, and then they were from, I think they were from Australia. So I was like, man, you guys.
Was it from a school that just likes you to buy all their gear? Because that's usually.
Yeah, I don't know about that, but I think the guy was from Australia, and it was like it wasn't an article, it was a rant. And
like the one you just went on?
Yeah, but I was thinking to myself, like, well, you guys can't even own guns, so it doesn't matter. But
anyway, rash guards. So yeah, like, apologies if I've ever made you uncomfortable. I literally have never thought about that because everything is concealed and strapped in, but I cannot wear a rash guard under my gi. I remember I used to wear leggings under my gi for a long time. I can't do that anymore either. It's too much.
Well, it's also, I think, comfort level because you were, you and a lot of females when they first start jiu-jitsu, there is an awkward phase of like the personal, intimate contact.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
Me personally, I wear a shirt under my gi, and that's more of one, just self-conscious, if it, because they all come untied or whatever. Two, I tend to get like a rash right here in the crease of my shoulders whenever I don't. Like if I wear a tank top, like if it's so hot and I do happen to wear a tank top under my gi, I'm usually kind of raw, like
from the
right
sleeve,
here, from right there. And that's the only reason why I do that, and I just don't want my belly hanging out. But the sweat thing kind of was like, I've never heard, and we live in Florida and train in Florida, like you said, in a metal building. So
with no AC. Like, there's nobody sweating more than us.
Yeah, that was kind of weird. But the other part of that is, well, I want to save that for the last question because I think it's going to get a little bit longer.
Oh, Jesus.
But the next question, open mat versus classes.
Oh, that's not a fair question.
Why? All right, Let's reframe
No,
it.
no,
Let's
no, it's
reframe
fine.
it.
No, you don't have to reframe it. It's fine. So, classes, yeah, classes. Like you have to go. Like you have to go to classes. If you're not getting any instruction whatsoever from anyone who has been around the sport for longer than you, but I also think that classes can be anything. If you're meeting with your friends and there's a higher belt and they're teaching you something, but it's not structured. I mean, that's still some kind of instruction I think is important. However, I know that when I'm going to open mats, everything improves. Like your cardio improves, your submission rate improves, your technicality improves because you're just exposing yourself more to different opponents with different strengths. And a lot of times, especially like let's say you're a person who can only make it to 6:30 jiu-jitsu on whatever days of the week. Most of the time you're going to be going with the same people all the time, learning their game or, whatever. And I think open mat gives you that opportunity to play more. Where a lot of times in class we get sometimes 15 minutes, sometimes 30 minutes, depending on the length of the rounds we're doing. You're only getting so many rolls in. Where at open mat, I mean, it's full send if you want it to be. So I don't think saying either or, like that's not really a fair question, but because if you can only go to class, yeah, go to class, but open mats, like that's where I think the improvement happens.
I agree. I think open mats are equally important as class because open mats can reinforce what you do in class. I think if you're going class 3 times a week, you should be hitting 1 to 2 open mats, even if it's on the same day as the class. Because think about learning a new technique, a new submission. Everybody's hyper aware of that submission. So then you're never going to be successful with it. So then you need to go to open mat and then reinforce it. I think open mats should be not just getting in there and going hard and going crazy. I think open mats. I think open mats are equally important as class. I think if you're going to open mats, or if you're going to classes 2-3 times a week, you should be hitting 1 to 2 open mats a week.
If you can.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
But like you were saying, you get Groundhog's Day when you roll with the same people.
Oh, yeah.
And when you learn a new technique, everybody's hyper aware of that technique, so you're not going to be successful with it. If you don't go to open mats and try and reinforce the new technique and implement.
You got to test your tools.
Yeah. Open mats are great. You don't have to go there and just go full bore 100 miles an hour, 100%. You can do positionals. You can, if you're having a hard time passing guard, and none of the classes have been focused on guard passing for a while, go to open mat. Say, I'm starting in your guard. That's what open mat is for you to develop you. And it's not always utilized that way, but it should be. I think open mats are super important. Like you said, you're going to develop, you're going to grow exponentially in open mats as well as going to class. Like there needs to be a balance. And the last one, gi versus no gi.
Sorry, coach. No gi.
All right.
I love the gi. I love the gi.
We have like 18 of them too, so.
I love all of my gis. But I love no gi personally, more. I don't know. I think maybe it comes from smaller person standpoint, because while I'm not a small girl, I'm 150 pounds, I tend to be a smaller training partner on the mat. And I know that I'm harder to hold down in no gi. than I am in gi. But I just feel like I feel like no gi is more creative. And I think people will argue that because they'll be like, oh, well, there's lapels and there's this and there's that. There's creativity in the gi too. But you don't have all of that shit in no gi. And then whenever the oil slick of all the human beings are on the mat and you're trying to figure your way through like the literal ocean, and like, I don't know, I love no gi.
Yeah.
Do you remember when I was the opposite?
Yeah.
And I hated it?
Yeah.
I learned so much.
I will say, coming back from my neck surgery, I would not have done no-gi because it is very head pull, choke dominant.
I used to be so scared of that.
But, you know, I prefer no-gi myself. But coming back from injury, the pace of gi, the slowness of gi, you know, if you're coming back to jiu-jitsu, I would say focus on gi till you kind of get the rust off. Grips allow you to slow things down. No gi tends to be higher paced.
I was going to say the pace is pushed a lot more.
And the scrambles are a lot more frequent in no gi. Not that gi doesn't have scrambles. But
you don't have grips in no gi to like hold people's positions.
You can shut a scramble down pretty quick in gi where you can't in no gi. So again, me personally, favor no gi. But having started doing 100% no gi for so long, I completely appreciate and see the value in gi, because I went from rolling, grappling, doing shoot fighting, you know, no gi grappling. And then whenever I focused on jiu-jitsu and put a gi on and spent, you know, 8 years in a gi straight, coming back out of that gi into no gi, my no gi jiu-jitsu went through the roof. Like, I am way more of a technical grappler now than I ever was. Like, me now about to turn 50 would smoke me at 35 whenever I started putting a gi on, like, without a doubt. Physical limitations, like my physical ability right now, I would smoke me at 35 without a doubt. And I think I can attribute that to the gi.
Yeah,
you know?
I'm not hating on the gi. I love gi.
Yeah, and
it's just on most given days, if you say, Sarah, you want to go to gi or no gi? You want this? Do you want open mat to be gi or no gi? I'm gonna say no gi.
Yeah, but if you're just starting out, split the time equally.
Well, and I think like there's a lot, especially like women, like some of the women that have come into the gym that are newer or whatever. I think they find some sort of security in the gi, because a lot of times when you're new, I mean, how often do you see people just grab and hang on?
There's an extra layer of physical barrier too, and there's the grips. Too,
but the grips, I think there's this security that comes from just being able to hang on. Like, I don't know what's happening, but I got these 2 grips and I'm just gonna stay here, you know? But I think like my biggest piece of advice to people who, like, no gi will improve your gi game.
Oh, without a doubt. And vice versa.
And it's, I mean, yes. But I find, I guess just for me personally, because I was in a gi for so long and I hated no gi, I didn't want to do it. And then when I had a friend come and push me to go to no gi classes, and I started going to no gi classes more, it totally changed my gi game, because I could see past just having grips.
Yeah.
So, I don't know, I just feel like it sort of like opened my brain, my jiu-jitsu brain more. Yeah. And it wasn't just all about like getting grips anymore. And I can move in the same ways, and I don't need to hold on to somebody's pants, or I don't need this, I don't need that. So for me, like, gi was great, but no gi changed me.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. It's good stuff.
Plus, we live in Florida. It's fucking hot, and I don't want to wear gi sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks for watching the podcast or listening to it wherever you're checking it out. If you like it, drop a comment, a like, subscribe, share it, something. And if you want to support the podcast and support us, you can go to thejujitsuculture.com and get this cool shirt, When in Doubt, Shrimp It Out. And then the new Slap Bump Roll shirt, all created by Sarah, thejujitsuculture.com. Thanks for listening.